Hi, I'm Dan. Welcome to Gravel Pit Road. Well, it's another beautiful day. Look at that sky. And what does it mean when it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon and that's the moon? Why is the moon out? It doesn't know what time of the day it is. Anyway, I'm gonna see if I can put this tractor at top dead center and check the timing on the injection pump and see if it's out of time. I could maybe put it in time and it'll run good. We'll see how it goes. I just grabbed this wrench out of my toolbox. It's got an offset on it. The only name on it is Drop Forged. It's a 3/4 on one end, handy, and it is a 25-30 seconds on the other end. Does anybody know what you would use a 25-30 second for? Never in my life. But the 3/4 will work. So there's a cover plate here on the back I showed you. I'm gonna see what it is to take this out. I guess I gotta unscrew the whole thing and pull the plate off. Or it might swing. I don't know. I'm gonna mess around with it, see if I can figure it out. This is the bolt that I pulled out from there with a cover plate. Took the cover plate off. And there's a hole down here, the threaded hole. This is a sight. You can just see the starter ring. And I don't understand how there's clearance to make it happen, but one video I watched said you stick a punch or something in this hole and you can catch a hole in the flywheel. And it doesn't look like there's much room between the flywheel and the ring, but maybe it's just a dimple. Be easier if I had two people, but I don't. So I've got it sitting in there, and what I'm doing is turning the engine. I had to put the pump in decompression because I didn't have the strength to fight that hydraulic system. And to turn this fan, pardon the walk around, to turn this fan and just fight the compression of the engine, pushing on this belt was just too much to turn this fan and figure that out, or fight that through. So, being the genius that I am, I figured out I can take my adjustable wrench, put it on the nut of the alternator, and spin it while putting pressure on the belt. And I can just slowly rotate this engine. And hopefully I can find that detent, whatever's on that flywheel, turning it ever so slightly. Right now, all I've done so far is just bloody my hand up, because that's the way I operate. Well, I found it, and I didn't have to turn very much. If you can see, there's a dish. If I can get my finger in there. Right there above my fingernail is a shiny spot. And that, I believe, is the detent to put this tractor engine in top dead center. Let me rotate it and see if that pin drops in it. What I did to make sure I had that pin completely in the center of that detent, dimple, whatever you want to call it, pit, I took this screwdriver and was able to just grab the teeth on the flywheel, and I wiggled it, the flywheel up and down until I know it's in the center. Darn close. Now what I'll do is I'm going to take this little cover plate off. There's two screws on the side of this injection pump. What is it, a Stanadyne? I just drew a blank on what the pump's called. First time I ever messed with one of these pumps. First John Deere I've ever owned. So I'll take these two screws off, pull this sight window or plate off, cover plate, and see if I can see the timing marks on this pump. All right, let me bring you in here. So here's what I'm seeing, and you can see it too. You'll see two dashes. There's a dash, a notch, then there's a line. There's two lines. And this line on the left is lower than the line on the right, and it's supposed to be straight across, as I understand it. So I'm going to loosen two nuts. I'm going to loosen that nut, and on top is that nut, and these are slotted. There's slots in the housing of this pump, and I'm going to rotate this pump to line up those lines across from each other. I don't know if I'm going to advance or retard this pump, but either way, I'm going to give it or take it away a little timing. Unless it's supposed to be out a little bit, we're going to find out, because right now it runs like crap and I don't see how I can make it worse. So I'm going to do this off camera because it definitely will take two hands. That sputter drives me crazy. Well, I think the conclusion is that I am going to pull that injection pump off, put it back in top dead center with some help this time, and I'm going to pull that injection pump off and take it to the diesel injection service and have them go through it. Because the way that pump is set up, I can't give it, I can only give it enough time to get those lines close together, and it makes me believe that maybe inside that pump there is a setting that dials everything in where it's supposed to be in relationship to this gear. And I know the guy told me that if I pull this pump off, to make sure I have it in full throttle and tie or zip tie or something my throttle cable in position so that it's in full throttle, so that when I reinstall the pump I don't change any adjustments inside the pump. Everything, the way I install it, has to be exactly the way they give it to me. So I'm going to suspect something's out of whack in that pump, and that's my next step, is to pull that pump off, which shouldn't be too difficult, and I'm going to do it with some help. I'm pulling this pump out. My wife came out and helped me line this back up at top dead center, which was where I showed you on this pin down here. You slide that pin into that dimple, which we actually took some white fingernail polish, or I did, and painted that little dimple on, and the flywheel put a mark, because as I was rotating she was having a hard time picking up that dimple that this pin would drop into. So I just went ahead and put some fingernail polish on it. So anyway, now I have all my lines unhooked, my throttle cable's unhooked, and the guy at the diesel service told me to pull it back into full throttle. So I remember they're going to set this pump in full throttle when they give it back to me. So I don't know exactly what he means by all of that, but I'm doing what he said. I should, with this at top dead center, I should be able to slide it off. My marks probably are off now. Yeah, they're off now, but you can see, if you look real close, there are two dashes, one on the left side and one on the right side. You definitely can see the one on the left side, and oh, this thing's magnetic. Yeah, come on baby, there. You see shiny? There's two lines straight across from each other, close to straight across. So the pump should be close to being in time, but it still runs like crap. So I haven't checked compression on the engine. That's pulling the injectors out and doing all that stuff, and I don't have the I'd have to rent the compression tool for the diesel and yada yada. So anyway, I need to rule out that the pump has issues. So now I'm going to try to wiggle this out. The gear stays inside this box, I'm told, and the shaft will slide out. There is a keyway in there that has to line up when I put it back together, and if I can do all this without blowing this whole thing, it'll be a miracle, because I have no idea what I'm doing just based on some videos I watched. So wish me luck. All right, so I got it this far. It'd been easier if I unhooked these fuel lines from the injectors, but that's a hassle. I didn't want to do it, so I'll probably have to do it when I crack them. But anyway, so I'm trying to wiggle this. There it goes. You can see everything's sliding out, and it should come right out. Oh, yep. There's 2 rubber seals here, by the way. Umbrella seals, they call them. And I'll replace those. They look like they're bad. They're hard as a rock. They look like they're real pliable on the new ones. This one's completely collapsed. And the one that up against the pump is sticking out a little bit more. There's a tool I gotta buy to help me slide those all back together so they don't flip the wrong way. And it's important that they go the direction they're supposed to go. That's a whole nother project. Right now I'm gonna take it off and I'm gonna call an end to this video, and then I'll either put the assembly back in with this or on another video. Probably put it on this video. Here's the beauty: a brand new, rebuilt, remanufactured pump. It's my pump. It wasn't the shaft wasn't broken, which I called around a couple places in the Midwest area, a couple diesel shops, and nobody had one in stock. This is a dinosaur. Stanadyne doesn't make them anymore, or Roosa Master, as it's got on the tag. It's a Stanadyne. It's obsolete, so you basically all you can get today is a remanufactured. Nobody had one in stock, so my only option to make this tractor work was to find a used one on another tractor being parted out. It would probably be bad, or bite the bullet and rebuild it. So this will last as long as I own this tractor, I'm sure, and maybe somebody else will end up with it someday and they'll still have a good machine. Anyway, enough talking. You probably can't see it, but the way to line this up to make sure it's lined up is there is I'm gonna try to turn a flash on here if I can. Cannot. Inside there, can you see it? Don't think so. Oh, there we go. I got some light. Perfect. Perfect. So come on now. You'll see in that slot there's a groove in the bottom. I have to keep touching the screen here, my iPhone, to get the light up. There's a round circle at the top, and that is a dimple inside this pump that lines up with a dimple on this shaft. I'm gonna move this all around and mess everybody's brain up, give you vertigo. But you may or may not be able to see, right at the end of this is a corresponding dimple. Those two have to line perfectly. You have to slide the pump on the shaft exactly like this is. And that's when you know you have everything in the correct direction. You're not 180 degrees out. Spin it the other way, you're a 180 out. I am gambling at this point that I have my pin in the flywheel in the correct location, and that this was top dead center when I took the pump out. Top dead center on #1 cylinder. And I'm going to find out in a minute when I line this up. I do have to replace these 2 rubber seals, umbrella gaskets, umbrella seals. And there's an O-ring on the pump also that seals up against this. Anyway, that keeps oil from getting into the pump and diesel fuel from getting into the oil. This is a part of the timing system. Timing gears are in here. Anyway, on to it. Alright, well, excuse the awkward angle, but it's about the only way I can figure out how to hold that camera up to show what I'm doing without getting my arms and everything in the way. Here's that rubber seal that I'm replacing. I think the pump is sitting in the correct timing position, but when I try to start it, that'll be the judge. These things here are the old ones came off. I didn't film it, but they were so loose, I just pulled them right off. The new ones are really tight, and I'm trying to not tear them. They probably have a tool for this, but I figure my skin is, you know, flexible, and a piece of metal or screwdriver or something, I'm afraid it'll stretch it and tear it. So I'm just doing it by fingers. I'm actually flipping it inside out. I think that's going to be the safest way to do it. Kind of wiggle it over. If I tear it, oh well. They sell them on the internet for about 12 bucks a pair on Amazon. I don't know if it's the same grade of rubber or whatever it's made out of. I'm over one hump. It's got to go back to this slot right here. This one's already on successfully. It was really exciting to watch, but if somebody doesn't show you and you don't know, you got to figure it out like I did. So I'll show you, and hopefully I won't have a failure. Sliding on, and there we go. That's in, but it's flipped over. It's inverted. It's got to go like this. Oh, I gotta go one more. I gotta go one more notch. Let's see if it'll do it. Yep. All right. This is in slotted position like this. The dimple's on top. I didn't go back and look at videos, but the pump will have to sit in an angle facing this way if I have it all in the correct time, and that's a big if. I think I'll be all right. The hard part is going to be sliding this shaft here, this brass bushing, over these. They make a tool that you reach in. It looks like a big old pair of tweezers that's cupped like a needle nose hose clamp puller, which I actually have one, but it's serrated, so I'm not going to use it. And it squeezes these in so that you can slide it in and not tear them. But it's $36 or $37 for the tool, plus tax, 40 bucks, and I'll never use it again. And if I mess this up, I can get new ones for 12 bucks. So who knows? It's give or take. I'm just gonna try not to booger it, and you're probably not gonna be able to see it because the pump in my hand is gonna be in the way. But if I mess it up, I'll say a bad word for you so you know it. Alright, so this has got to be lined up. Got to be lined up. These studs go in the holes on the pump. And this has got to be in just the right position to give clearance to slide in the shaft. It's bubbling up on top. I'm going to gently take this screwdriver and give it a little push. Oh, it popped. How about that? It collapsed itself. Now it's got to collapse on the bottom. Come on. I don't have much confidence in this technique. I'm probably going to be sorry I didn't buy the tool. Yep. The bubble on the back. You can fast forward. You won't hurt my feelings. I'm sure this is boring. Give it a little twist. There you go. Doesn't feel like it's moving. Let's get closer though. A little pressure. Push it in. You know, it's got to lay down like flat in there. Oh, this side's going. I probably got it cockeyed a little bit. Oh. I don't see I can flip over once it's in there. It's just gotta, I just don't want to force it. Feels like I'm forcing it. It's definitely not sliding. That's for sure. I wonder if I should have, well, the shaft had diesel fuel in it. It's almost spilled on my shoe. There we go. It did it. Yep, sure did. Now this side shouldn't be a problem. Now what I don't want to do, see, I don't think it's in time. I don't think I got it timed properly based on the angle. Let's see. I'm going to roll the tractor back a little bit. Be right back. Alright, so what I did was I just knocked my tractor out of time a little bit because I couldn't get the shaft to slide in properly, and you can't force this pump on. So I rolled the tractor just a little bit, which gave me enough room to rock this on. Now to put it in time, the pump has to rotate down. So I know I'm slightly off. So I gotta go. I have to go get my helper and have her help me roll this, just probably a tooth on the crank up here to drop this pin back in and make sure I'm in time, and then I'll set this pump exactly where it needs to be. Then I'm going to roll the tractor back about a quarter turn and then roll it back and check it again. Do it twice, and I should be in good shape. Here's where I am. So I've got this, according to the marks in this window I'll show you, this thing is dead on time, right on the money. These are the two nuts. I had those slightly loose. No, I snug them up a little bit. What I did is I snug them up a little bit. These lines, I couldn't get them just exactly directly across from each other. And you only have so much adjustment because these are slotted holes in the body of this pump. See that slotted hole right there? And the only way to know without pulling the whole timing cover off, which means removing the radiator, no thank you, is you have this pin right here. That's factory. And there's a cover plate that I got to put back on, and this threads in here. Darn, my hand's in the way. This threads in like this, and that holds the cover plate on over this sight window. But the only purpose of the sight window is to watch for a dimple. If you watched me take this pump off, there's a dimple in the flywheel. It looks like they took a drill bit and drilled the start of a hole into the flywheel. I took some fingernail polish and painted the hole, because you can't see it rolling it around. Actually, my wife stood there and watched for it as I rolled the engine over, and then once she saw that paint disappear down here, I'm moving really slow. This pin is in here like this, and then you feel it drop into the dimple. So what I didn't understand about this was, when I took this off to have it rebuilt, there was no way to move it. It was maxed out on the swivel on this pump, to rotate it. When you rotate it, it rolls. Let me show you. It rolls those lines. I may have to give you some light. See them? Those lines in there, right dead center. There's two dashes, and they line up. So this thing is right on the money from, what I understand. Believe me, I'm no engine mechanic. Diesel, no way. Carburetor, got you covered. Diesel pump, nope. So those are lined up. Before, I couldn't get them lined up. The line on the left was lower than the line on the right. Just barely, just a fraction. And the guy at the injection service told me that the shaft wasn't broken, which seemed to be, you know, that's the big issue with these things. If the shaft breaks, then it's locked up, the pump is junk. It's not junk unless it tore something up, because they sell the shafts. They sell everything. They sell all the components on the inside as long as it's not destroyed. And apparently, you know, they can rebuild them. So I've come to the conclusion, if they tell you it's locked up, I heard it from several different people, then it's no good. And I'm not a diesel injection pump guy, but I think that's a little bit of a, you know, that means they get to sell you a newly rebuilt one for like $2,500, and I was well into half of that for this one, getting it rebuilt. I don't know if he put a new shaft in it. He probably did. I didn't ask. I just bent over and took it. So anyway, what I just did, to help you understand what I just did, right or wrong, this is the way I did it. Again, I have no clue. I'm just figuring it out. Was just now, when I snugged these nuts up a little bit, I didn't like the position of the lines. I felt like I was looking at the pump before I took it off. So then I was thinking, well, maybe I need to rotate the flywheel just a little bit, and this, because maybe this is advanced or retarded. I did notice that on top of the pump here, if you can see it, now this was painted yellow, the pump was, so I couldn't see those marks. There's marks right there in the middle, right there, and I'm assuming that under this paint is probably a notch, which I'm not going to screw up. I'm not going to take the paint off. There's probably a mark on this body here, this plate. I'm not going to dig for it. It's either going to run or it's not. To advance it, or, you know, if you want to advance it a little bit or retard it. Anyway, I know how to advance and retard it now, because all I got to do is loosen these nuts. I find my top dead center using this pin, and then I just loosen these nuts and rotate the engine just a little bit up, forward, or reverse, which will advance and retard the gears inside of here. And then I can make an adjustment, a slight adjustment, ever so slight, on this pump. Now that I gabbed all this, I'm going to put these fuel lines back on, snug everything down. I got to put the sight cover. There's a plate that goes over top of this. You screw down with a gasket on it to seal this pump up, or fuel will come flying out. Bleed the injectors and see if it starts. Yeah, must be like that. Struggle, struggle. All right, I'm gonna prime the fuel filter bowl, get fuel through this line, and then push fuel into this pump so I'm not cranking on a dry pump. All right, I guess that was overkill. Tighten that back down. Could go get the right wrench, or I could just use what I have. Okay, tight. Alrighty, this one. This one. Wrong way. pump is set in full throttle. I don't know why they did that, but they told me to make sure I had the tractor in full throttle when I set everything up. Okay, I did. All right, my last step is to hook up this hose. This is the return line. I don't know if that'll stay. I think so. This goes to the return line, and I need a cotter key for the throttle, and I got to hook up my solenoid, on-off, shut-off solenoid. And what I'm doing right now is I'm switching to this fuel line clamp. You can see that, as opposed to this worm gear clamp, which is what I took off, because when I took it off, this piece of metal here on the inside of the worm gear clamp had sliced all the way into the hose on this barb, and I don't know, it could have been sucking air right there, causing me a little bit of problem. So I'm getting rid of that, and I'll put this on. I think it's going. God darn. See, the barb on this is bigger than the barb on the injector. That doesn't help things. All right, that's down. Maybe I got just a little bit more. I'd say that's good. Now my clamp is too small, but I got some adjustment. Quarter-inch wrench. I think that'll do it. Stick this on here. This box over here to catch it if I drop the nut. And that's exactly what I would do. Just drop this daggone nut. I got a little rust on it. It's not the right garment or wire end, but it'll have to do. Alright, tighten that down. Almost there. Prime time. You'll start. Battery. off for a little bit. Well, that's it for this episode. Will it start after a rebuilt pump? And it all went good, so I'm happy. Catch you next time.